At that moment, I finally knew something else. The guy she was having an affair with wasn't the only bad person. My mother was also a bad person. Since that moment, the existence of my mother disappeared from my world. Like dry ice evaporating. Oh man. And this is sad. I didn't have to hesitate about whom to live with anymore.
あなたの家には行きません。私の家は竜宮の家です。もうあなたとも会いたくありません。二度と呼ばないでください。
でもね、レイナ、お父さんの方に残ったらこれからの生活。
At that moment, I hated my name for the first time in my life. And thus, you call yourself Rena.
私のこと、気安くレイナって呼ばないでください。失礼します。さようなら。
Those were my last words to my mother. No, to the woman who used to be my mother. After that, I spent many days without feeling anything. I didn't know if the days were long or short. I didn't know which season I was living in. It was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary, not having my mother around. But every time my father saw things that reminded him of her, like her toothbrush, her teacup, or her favorite books, he shed tears, which left me frustrated. That's why I decided to completely remove her belongings from the house. I roughly threw her things into a black trash bag. I started to do so frantically. By the time I knocked down her wardrobe, threw her music box pot on the floor, and broke her mirror, my mind was already not working properly. When I tried to remember what happened after that, I feel disoriented. That's because the pills the doctor gave me back then made me feel disoriented and lethargic every time I took them. Since that dullness hit me especially hard, since every time I try to remember that time, it makes me feel disoriented and lethargic, just like the pills made me feel. I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother, but the thing I wanted to destroy the most might have been myself. Even after I threw all her belongings away, I still couldn't feel regret. I decided to blame myself in the end. Oh my god. Like, how old was she at this point when this happened? Hell, did this even happen before she moved? Like, to that other school? Or was this like during that process? Because like this would be an incentive enough to go back to Hinamizawa, since, you know, the mother and the Rena and the father decide to go to Ariakey and all that, and this would be incentive enough for Rena at least, and the father maybe, to go back to Hinamizawa at the Ryugyu house. And that could be it. So, in that sense, if that's the timeline, and this isn't something that happened before the whole Oyashiro and the school breaking the windows incident happened, it could be that Oyashiro was an extra motive that Rena offered in order for her going back to Hinamizawa to happen like more. Maybe that's only the story that we've heard, but this is something else that happened in the background that we're finally learning. Behind her moving back to Hinamizawa. Maybe. Maybe I was thinking that I wanted to do damage to her reputation and successful life by destroying her daughter, destroy myself. When I was about to reach that very last resolution, Yashiro-sama came to me. Yashiro-sama told me to go back to Hinamizawa. Oh, yes, all of this was because of his curse. Yeah, well, there you have it. Oyashiro-sama brought a curse upon the Ryugu family because we broke his rule and abandoned Hinamizawa. Okay, so this could be like, this could be in Rena's eyes the reason for why all this happened, because of Oyashiro. This is, among all the other things, what made her go back to Hinamizawa. It wasn't just the endless days of her being haunted by Oyashiro, not being able to sleep, seeing Oyashiro, like, at the end of the bed, hearing footsteps and all that, but this is the major factor here. Or, you know, like, in a realistic sense, like, what if I were to say hypothetically that, well, not hypothetically, but what if there is this idea of how Rena created the lie of being haunted by Oyashiro for the sole purpose of going back to Hinamizawa, that maybe this is all just fabrication. She told everybody that, oh, she's being hunted by Oyashiro, she has to go back to Hinamizawa, just so that she would leave her mother, since the mother would more than likely stay here in the Ibaraki. So maybe that's the thing. After I figured that out, everything started to make sense to me. All the crazy things that happened after my mother was gone. The curse of Oyashiro-sama did all that to us. But from what I'm reading here, and especially the earliest chapter, it does seem that Rena believes in Oyashiro. Like, it does seem to be the case, so it's not as if... I mean, it surely helps her from separating herself from her mother, but she does believe that it's because of the curse of Oyashiro that this happened, so she had to go back to Hinamizawa. It was Oyashiro-sama's voice that was telling us to come back to Hinamizawa. That's right. We should have stayed in Hinamizawa. Everything went crazy because we moved. We had to go back to Hinamizawa. I started feeling disoriented again, and a dull pain ran through my head. It might be a scream from within me telling me not to push myself too hard to remember any further. The house where we used to live in Hinamizawa is still there. My grandma already passed away, and the house was the only property she left for us. I remember that I used to live in Hinamizawa, but all I remember was that it was a village that I used to live in, until right before I went to elementary. I remembered the atmosphere of the village too, but that was all I remembered. I forgot the streets and even the names of close friends I used to play with. The neighbors knew that the son of the deceased woman had come back divorced. But they didn't know us, and we didn't know them. So, it was almost like we moved to a new place. However, as far as I was concerned, it still was my hometown that I had to come back to. At first, everything was inconvenient compared to life in Ibaraki, and it was hard for both of us to adjust. But we renovated the old house, and it was only me and my father. Life here seemed to make my father forget his pain from the divorce. Mi-chan was very kind to me, and I started to get used to my new life too. I did everything around the house, and we gradually went back to a time when we used to live happily. Anybody can live a happy life. People sometimes say that some people are born to be unhappy, but I believe that's just an excuse for people who don't even want to try. I won't give in to fate. I'll never give up trying to recapture the happy times that I lost. I'm going to become happy to the point where I don't even feel the happiness anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'll never cry again. I used up all my tears on that night my father hit me. The curse of Oyashiro-sama is over because we came back to Hinamizawa. So, I'm going to have a happy life from now on. All of a sudden, Big raindrops hit the roof of the car. And I recovered my senses. Wow. Well, there you have it. Now we know some of Rena's backstory right over here. And why she sometimes feels sad and all. Quite sad indeed. Like, well, what can I even say to this? I mean, at the very least, it is as what she said. I mean, once she came back to Hinamizawa, things started to become like the times before she left. Like, you know, renovated the house, like being friends with Mion and starting to live like a normal life, not the chaos of Ibaraki and whatever the mother was going through with Akihito and the others and all that. None of that stuff that would make Rena very sad. So, in that sense, it still makes me think, like, why is Rena so hesitant on going back home, like, right on? Unless there's something going on with the father that makes it really, really hard on Rena. Otherwise, you'd think that Rena and the father would be able to live happily. I mean, I know that the father was absolutely crushed after what the mother did. So, like, why do I get a thing that the father is still broken to this point? And the father is now doing things that would hurt Rena because of that breakup that happened a long time ago. Because otherwise, I'm thinking that if the father maybe managed to get over it and, like, after a time, like, heal himself emotionally and maybe start living a normal life again, maybe things would be okay. But I get the thing that Rena being here in this car and not going back home, it kind of makes me think that the chaos is not over yet. It's just that, well, it ended with the mother, since she more than likely is still in Ibaraki, but it may be that something's happening with the father. I hope not. It was still raining hard. It had already gotten dark outside. The shadows the table lamp created were very dark, and it looked as if there was nothing else around me. If I turn off this light, would everything in this world disappear? I turned off the light. Darkness swallowed me, but the cold air and the sound of rain didn't change a bit. And that made me realize I was still in this world. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. Did the curse of Oyashiro-sama do those crazy things to my family? Or did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce and go back to Hinamizawa because of it? That's what I was questioning before. Like, either you use this Oyashiro as an excuse or you truly believe it. Sometimes, I'm not sure. Since that time, Oyashiro-sama hasn't come to me. I sometimes feel like it was a delusion I created because I was mentally ill. But he did come at that time. I'm sure about that. Am I right, Oyashiro-sama? I was unhappy after I left Hinamizawa, but I came back and I'm happy now. But where am I supposed to go now that I'm unhappy in Hinamizawa? Where?
ダメだ、レナ。不幸になったとか考えちゃいけない。私は幸せなんだ。幸せになるんだ。だから、絶対に幸せになれるんだ。
I mean, okay. I know I said before that maybe once she went back to Hinamizawa, things would start to become, like, okay. That she would start living happier lives and, you know, rebuild herself and rebuild themselves as a family. Now with only the father, but yeah. The unhappy feelings that Rena may feel once in a while, like right now, it is because of those moments in the past that happened that are still haunting her. Right now, she's still trying to fight through that and live happier days and not think about those ugly times. Like, she's still trying to process and grieve over it. So, yeah. Slowly, I felt that if this darkness swallowed me, I'd never be able to be happy again. I found the switch for the table lamp and turned it back on. When I looked at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. I had to go home. I wouldn't have time to prepare my lunch for tomorrow. At least, I have to set the timer on the rice cooker. It didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. I looked out the window to see the rain, but could only see my reflection. I talked to that reflection in the window. I was so glad that my father was happy. He'd been acting like he was dead for a long time. And the smile on his face is a good sign that he is regaining his former happy life. Okay, well that's good. He became miserable because of me. Like, this is definitely not your fault, Rena. Now, of course, you're still gonna feel that way, and that's the core reason for why you're having such unhappy feelings even to this day, because you feel it like it's your fault that all this happened. It really didn't, Rena. It really didn't happen because of you. You are not the source of these unhappy days that you are having. That's why I don't mind doing things for him until he regains his smile and will become truly happy. When I stay here alone for a while, it gives him some time to be alone with her. Plus, I don't have to fake a smile. Her? Oh my god. And here comes that woman that entered Angel Mort and talked to Rena. That's what this is all about. You know, here's the thing, folks. At first, I didn't remember when we seen that woman for the first time at Angel Mort. It didn't click with me. But afterwards, like after a while, it suddenly dawned on me that her name was definitely sounding familiar to me. And I checked my notes from the past, like chapters and all, and sure enough, we've heard that name before. Rina Mamiya. It's the same woman that died at the beginning of chapter 3. And more importantly, the same woman that apparently was with Teppei. But what surprises me here is that, like, unless I'm wrong, it could very well be that the father is trying to regain his happy days and live a normal life by simply being with another woman. Which, you know, understandably so. But if this same woman is Rina, that could be very, very dangerous, because we know that Rina apparently was coupled with Teppei. So I get the feeling that there's some cheating going on right over here. And if the father realizes that this Rina is cheating on him with the other guy, with Teppei, that will be pretty bad. But then, my reflection in the window tells me, Rena, you're such a good girl. You're kind to everybody and love them equally. You can make anybody like you. But, did you forget something? In this world, there are people you should be kind to, and enemies that you have to reject with all you've got. I thought you learned that lesson. No. No, don't listen to her. My reflection is always mean. She always says mean things and makes fun of my worries. But she always tells me things that I can't say myself. Let's go home, Rena. To your home. Forget about the mean Rena in the mirror. I was a bit hungry by then. After all the desserts I ate, I still got hungry. I almost forgot. Rina-san bought me a shortcake. I never had a shortcake from Angel Mort, but I bet it will taste good. And I have to give my thanks to Rina-san the next time I see her. Rina-san speaks in a way that makes it very clear how she grew up. But I'm sure she's a good person. That's because she's so good to my father. I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rina-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. I have to thank Rina-san. I have to thank her for cheering up my father. But I don't know why. I just don't like her perfume. God damn it. It's all connecting in such a disgusting way. And it's all because of this woman. Not only is this woman the one that went with Teppei and, because of her death, her death is what made the Teppei go back to Hinamizawa all by himself and thus create unhappy days for Satoko. Not only is Arena the trigger for the chaos in Satoko's life, but it very well could be a possible new trigger of chaos for Arena soon enough. Arena is involved in Satoko and Rena's lives in such a way that it's painful to see. Oh boy. Alright. Let's see about these tips right over here. My summer vacation picture diary. Picture diary. Today, I went to a swimming pool with my mom. Uncle Akihito came with us too. Oh my god. Oh boy. I don't like him because he's sometimes mean to me. But he's a very kind and funny old man. He told me to call him Daddy for that day. Because he was going to play with me at the pool like he was my daddy. My mom called him Daddy. So I did too. Uncle Akihito looked very happy and gave me a lot of money. My mom looked very happy. It made me happy too. I want to play with him again. I hope my dad can come with us next time. Ugh. Oh god. Hey, Jesus Christ, man. I opened the window, placed my cushion nearby, and prepared to enjoy the weather. But she came over and disrupted my peaceful evening. She always ruins my time of solitude.
幸せそうね。そっか。今日はあんたの大好きな甘いものがたくさん食べられたものね。
This girl loves sweets more than anything. I like them too, but I can't eat like she does. You give me a heartburn if I ate the amount she ate today. She seemed to be very happy, so I'll leave her alone for a while. I've been making my favorite hot and salty food for the past few days, so she must be quite pleased today. It was a very fun day for me too. I just wanted to enjoy the memory of the excitement I felt today by sitting here quietly, enjoying the sunset. But when I looked up at the sky, I saw some thick clouds forming there. The wind was a bit cooler than usual. It might start raining soon.
大地震や大津波などの知らせとして、浅瀬に普段は絶対に見かけることができない深海の魚が現れることがあるっていう話があるらしいわね。
I saw a very rare fish that dwells in deep water in the shallows today. Just as the ancient stories of sea monsters say, people hate deep sea animals and tend to interpret them as omens of a disaster. Yeah, there's a yokai story for that. It didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. I said something interesting just now. Even if they showed up alive or dead, it was an omen of a disaster. Oh, it might start raining soon.
うるさいな。言われなくても分かってる。洗濯物を取り入れるわよ。
I grabbed a basket and went outside to take the laundry in. The clouds were getting darker. I normally like rain, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it today.
Oh, 来た来た。
Hey, Rena.
おはよう、レナ。
今日はケイチ君の方が早かったね。
And you know, I'm starting to think this. That woman, Lina, died at the beginning of chapter 3 because of Rena, didn't she? That's what started the chain reaction in chapter 3. It was Rena killing her at the beginning of chapter 3. Because of more than likely something bad is gonna happen soon. That Rena does probably hurt the father. Rena probably finds out that Rena is cheating on her father, and Rena decides to stop that by killing her. Oh my god, are you telling me that this is gonna be a retelling of chapter 3? In similar fashion to how chapter 5 was a retelling of chapter 2? That moment at the beginning of this chapter of the girls at the trash dump, it was them hiding Teppei's body, isn't it? That idea that I brought up way before about how the girls at the very least have hid Keiichi's murder, and they hid the body of Teppei just so that he wouldn't be found. Oh my god, this is gonna be a retelling of chapter 3, isn't it? I'm gonna have to see Satoko go through so much again.
普段を棚にあげるわけじゃないが、俺が朝の待ち合わせでレナに勝つなんて珍しいこともあるもんだぜ。
はあ、レナ、今朝はちょっとお寝坊した。昨べ寝つかれなくってね。
レナもか？実は俺もなんだよ。昨日の大騒ぎの余韻がずーっと残っててさ、布団に入っててもなかなか眠くならなくて夜が長く感じたぜ。
Yesterday, I had a lot of fun with my friends, and one who went home still riding that high. I was too full to eat dinner. I kept talking with my parents about the great time I had over the past few days. I was so pumped that I couldn't go to sleep. Kinda sounds like I'm a little kid. You are a little kid, Keiichi. You are. All of you still are. Bunch of little babies that are going through so much. But even if Rena seemed to be the same way, I felt better about it. No, I felt better isn't the right way of phrasing it. I should say, I'm glad to know that we share the same feeling. Rena went treasure hunting after I left. I'm sure she found many adorable things, went home, and talked with her parents about how great the day was.
あ、みーちゃんだ。おはよう。
おお、ミオンが先に待ってるなんて 今日は雪が降るかもな。
人が珍しく先に待ってりゃそういうこと言うわけ？
それを言ったら私より先に待ってた圭一くんも珍しいよ。雪が降るかもね。
人のこと言えないね。
It's going to be another happy day today. I had fun the day before yesterday. I had fun yesterday. So I'm going to have fun today for sure. I am happy. And Mion is happy too. Of course, Rena and my other friends are equally happy. I'm not afraid to say it, and I wish these happy days will last forever.
なあミオン、今日は何をして遊ぼうな。
今日の部活？何がいいだろうね。
Alright, well, let's see what today's event is gonna be.
レナは提案ある？
そうだね。昨日おとといと体を使うゲームが続いたから、今日はあまり体に激しくないゲームがいいな。
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have to do with us eating something. I feel like we've eaten so much we wouldn't have to eat for several days.
そうだな。レナの言うのも一理あるぜ。部活は肉体勝負だけが全てじゃねえだろ。
もちろん心技体すべての要素において完璧であってこそ部活メンバーだからね。じゃあ今日は何かテーブルゲームで遊ぶことにしよう。
Alright, sounds like a plan. Everybody was early this morning. We could enjoy our walk to school for once. After a while, we started talking about the upcoming festival. They told me that the festival was called Watanagashi, and it's the biggest event of the year in Hinamizawa.
そうだそうだ。昨日沖宮の家に親類が集まっていろいろと話が出たんだけどさ、ケイちゃんの話題が出たんだよ。
Wait, what? At your house, Nokinomiya? They started talking about Keiichi? What?
俺？園崎家の重鎮が集まって一体何の相談だよ。
いやさ、昨日のエンジェルモートでのケイちゃんの活躍を見てた店長の吉郎おじさんがさ。
Jesus Christ, Mion. You know, Keiichi has enough of his parents and Rena talking behind his back about embarrassing stories of the past. Now you're doing too with your family? Jesus Christ. Everybody in the village is gonna start talking like embarrassing stories about Keiichi.
ケイちゃんのことを相当気に入っちゃったみたいでさ。それでいろいろと話を聞いてみたら、他の親類も意外にケイちゃんのことを知ってる人が多いんだよね。Hinamizawaの名物男みたいな言われようだったよ。
Rena, this is your fault. The embarrassing stories that you've been sharing with Keiichi's parents have started to spread out. Now he's become famous because of them.
名物男ってのはまた微妙な称号だな。その称号の9割方はミオンの罰ゲームに関係があるような気がするぞ。
それだけじゃないけどさ、ノリもいいし元気があって無鉄砲なところも今時の若い子にしては関心とみんなベタ褒めだったよ。
I felt a bit embarrassed to know that people I haven't met were speaking well of me.
でね、今後の綿流しのお祭りで何かで活躍してくれないかなって話が出てね。
What?
ケイちゃん目立つこととか好きでしょ？
おいおいおいおい、本人不在で勝手に話を進めるな。俺は孤独と静寂を愛するロンリーガイだぜ。
誰がロンリーガイだ？チェリーボーイの間違いでしょ？
はあ、チェリーってなんだろう。ケイチくん、チェリーボーイ。はあ。
I have no idea. Keiichi, did you do something embarrassing with some cherries yesterday?
うわー！年頃の娘どもが朝っぱらからはしたないこと言ってんじゃねえ。
We're not talking about something sexual here, right? We really were still feeling the after effects of yesterday. Mion and I made a lot of noise teasing each other on the way to school. Rena watched us and laughed happily. Satoko and Rika-chan were already there when we arrived at school. They were also full of energy. Hello, little babies. Tomita-kun and Okumura-kun were too. From that, I could tell that they also had a good time yesterday. Everybody has been having a good time, really. In Hinamizawa, everybody is happy.
まだ引っ越してきて1年も経ったわけじゃないけどさ。
どうしたの突然。
いやさ、ひなみ沢に引っ越してきて、俺幸せになったなって。
どうしたのケイちゃん、急に臭いこと言い出して。
レナにはわかるよ。ひなみ沢に引っ越してきて、すべてが幸せになった気持ち、よくわかる。この村にはね、きっと人を幸せにする魔法がかかってるんだと思うから。
レナは幸せか？
うん。レナはひなみ沢に引っ越してきてからが毎日幸せだよ。
そうだな。そいつは俺もだ。
ちょっと、なんかおじさんだけのけ者っぽくない？ブーブー。
The sky was clear, and a few thin clouds were pure white. The cry of the cicadas was telling me that summer would be coming earlier than usual. Watanagashi is just around the corner. I'm sure we'll have a great fun at the festival too. There will be more and more fun days to come, I'm sure of it. Summer is just around the corner. Alright, switching to Rena. The last class of the day was finally over, meaning that it was time for club activities. I was sure it would be fun. I couldn't wait. How? But then Mi-chan received a call and told us something had come up and she had to go, so we didn't have a club meeting today. Fucking damn it. I was really looking forward to it. There was nothing I could do, but I could at least chat with Cage-kun on the way home. It would be fun. Cage-kun sometimes says mean things, but he is very funny. When I chat with him, my depression goes away. Wait, what did I just say? Am I depressed? I have so much fun every day, and I'm as happy as I can be. What did I have to be depressed about? Well, it was obvious. Because of Rina-san, my father is happy now. Before he met her, he was like a lamp in broad daylight. Honestly, he was like the living dead. But after he met Rina-san, he started to smile like he used to when he was living with my mother. He enjoyed talking with her and started going out with her. You would probably say they went on dates. Now, he looks 20 years younger. Rina-san gets along with my father very well. And she's very kind to me too. There's actually no reason for me to hate her. But the bitter memories of my parents' divorce and my many regrets were gradually eating away at my heart. Was it okay to accept that woman? Rina-san might be the same as how Uncle Akihito turned out to be. Is she the enemy who takes my happiness away with her very existence? With or without bad intentions? Am I going to sit around until everything collapses again? Should I fight the enemy before it's too late? Rina-san comes to my household too, obviously. Since my father started letting her stay tonight, many of her belongings have turned up in the house. My father and I don't smoke, But there's an ashtray in the living room. The futon in our guest room is hers now. In the bathroom, there's a toothbrush and shampoo I'd never choose to buy. I started to feel awkward about those things. And that's when I started noticing it at the front door when I came home from school. Her perfume. I asked my father once if he was thinking about getting married to Rina-san. He looked a little embarrassed, perplexed, and confused. He told me, not yet. He knew I was hurt by the divorce. That's probably why he couldn't admit that he wanted to remarry. That's why he said, not yet. He'd consider it, but not while I was still living with him. That's what he meant, I guess. There's only one reason why I don't want him to get remarried to Rina-san. I feel offended that my sanctum, my family, is being invaded. Yeah, you know, this is a very confusing thing for Rena because on one hand, she does want her father to be happy. And, you know, meeting that woman has brought life to her father. And marrying probably continue to make his, like, her father's life, like, even better, you know. But on the other hand, Rena has experienced this moment of a complete stranger who has entered the family's life, who has taken away one of her parents, in the past being her mother with Akihito, and now Rina with the father. She still has yet to feel safe with Rina. Like, she doesn't fully trust Rina. I might be being selfish though. I know keeping my father all to myself means keeping him miserable like he was before he met Rina-san. He has a life to live too. It's his right to heal from the pain from the divorce and to live, to find his new love. He wouldn't have to go through that painful life that I prevented the divorce from happening in the first place. He has a right to a happy new life that lets him forget the pain he never deserved. And I don't have any right to stop him. In fact, I have an obligation to try to return his happiness to him. I have to pay for my sin, my inability to prevent his divorce. Then, what should I do to make both of us happy? It wouldn't be that difficult. All I need to do would be to give my son the approval of their relationship. My father tells me he won't get remarried while we live together. That means I should stop leaning on my family, be strong, and live on my own as soon as I can. Oh. Well, I guess there's an extra reason for why Rena just stays as much as she can at the treasure hunt place. Not only because she wants to give Rina and the father space, like, through the night, and she would come later that night, but also because she basically wants to be, like, independent, like, in general, not just for those nights, but rather, you know, end up at a point in the future where Rena is gonna live by herself, or, you know, with somebody, wink wink Keiichi, and, you know, that way the father would live happy days with Rina, without Rena herself feeling like she is a burden to the father, the same way that she had felt before because of this inability to stop the divorce that Rena is thinking. Even though I'd say it's none of her fault and all that, but that's how she feels. She has this unhealthy mentality of how it was her fault that it all happened, which is not the case, but nonetheless, That's an extra reason for why she built herself her own castle at the treasure hunt place. To be strong like this. Although that doesn't mean I can tell him not to go out with her until that day. Rina-san comes to our house to see him despite her busy schedule. And she even stays the night whenever her shifts permit. They're adults. I have no right to say anything against that. And that's why I chose to give my silent approval to their relationship. And tried to see her as well as I could. I get along with Rina-san on the surface. I know my father would have a hard time keeping face if he didn't. But it's a very exhausting and painful thing to get along with a person I don't really like. So whenever Rina-san comes over, I spend as much time as possible outside, and then head home late. Mi-chan's club activities are the most convenient things to do to kill time. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that is a good point. But there are some days we don't have a club meeting. On those days, I while away my time at the garbage dump, hunting for treasure alone. And that's how I start to make my secret hideout. My father can do whatever he wants with Rina-san at home. I don't have to see them together. I can spend my time peacefully at my hideout. I sometimes feel depressed about my life. I sometimes want to talk to somebody about it. But nothing will change. Even if I talk to somebody. Hey, I mean, you know, even if nothing were to change, if you were to talk to somebody, you know, we humans, we have this weird thing like wired in our brains to not talk to people about like hard stuff because we don't want to bother like other people, and you know, it's kind of a hard thing. But ultimately, we are social beings. If there's somebody that we can go to talk about this stuff, even if it will not change anything afterwards, you know, at least you talk to somebody about it. You won't bottle all this up in yourself. This is all I can really do. The most important thing for me should be to overcome the sadness of losing my family as fast as I could, and to regain my own happiness. I have so much fun every day. I am happy every day. Even on the way home, Cage-kun was talking about funny things that made me laugh. My feeling gloomy in spite of that was kind of rude. My father should be happy. I should be happy. I just feel sad because I still can't separate from my father. Compared to the unexpectedness of the divorce, Rina-san's evasion is a very slow process. I think Rina-san understands how I feel. She treats me very kindly, but she doesn't do more than that. I think she understands that I'd feel uncomfortable if she did. I respect Rika-chan, because she's strong even without her parents. Compared to the pain of losing both her parents unexpectedly, my problem is like nothing. I respect Satoko-chan's toughness too. She also lost her parents and was forced to live a painful life under her uncle and aunt. Compared to the cruel treatment she had to go through, my relationship with Rina-san is a blessed one. I keep feeling anxious, but that's just because I'm still immature, and because I feel like I'm not ready to separate from my father. I mean, you know, it's understandable. I mean, you're still a child right now. Like, you're not the only one on the planet who feels sad about, like, separating yourself from your parents. Although, in some cases, some people are gonna separate themselves from their parents to live by themselves. They're not gonna think of it that too much because they're a bunch of teenagers and don't think much about it. But later, they're gonna start realizing, oh shit, I started to feel pretty sad without my parents. And then it starts like going through this process of how you feel when you're separated from your parents. Whereas before, you lived with your parents for like minimum 16 years of your life, ever since birth. It's hard. And let's not forget about the concept of death. That's an even harsher version of that, of separation. Which, you know, it also brings up the point even more home that this is another case of Rena and the rest of the kids just having to grow up so fast because of these painful moments. I have to be strong like Rika-chan, Sadoko-chan. I have to try my best to be happy. I'm going to live with all my might, in order to regain the peace of mind that I lost that day. My assumption that I'm not happy is just a mistake. I should appreciate the wonderful days I've spent with my wonderful friends. Just by realizing that I'm happy, the world shines so brightly.
それでね。
And, you know, of course, there is this one hiccup that Rena has about feeling guilty that the divorce happened because of her, and that's what she thinks, even though I'd say that's not the case. Despite this hiccup that Rena has to go through and, you know, like, fix and all that, Rena, like, despite that, Rena has her head on her shoulders. Like, the way she thinks in this narration over here, she is on a good track, I'd say. Like, despite this divorce that happened, this isn't the same case as Shion, who has a bit of a warped mentality when it comes to everything, because yeah, she lived a much rougher. Okay, well, I don't want to compare these kinds of. She did live her like a rough life. It's just that Shion, in comparison to Rena, Shion has never had somebody to teach her how to function as a person. In my eyes, about love, about friendships and all that. Like, the Sonozaki family situation is a little bit weird with this custom of the heir and the black sheep kind of thing. Rena, on the other hand, despite the divorce and all that, she had lived a normal life. Her mother had taught her how to be, like, a daughter and all that. Granted, they didn't have the time to teach Rena how to be, you know, a girl of her age, and soon a teenager who has to go through love and all that, but it seems that Rena is doing it by herself just fine, just going through this. Whereas with Shion, she never really had that kind of person. Like, even right now, the father is more than likely, like, teaching Rena how to be a good kid and all that, which is nice. Rena has that, like, despite thinking that she has to separate herself from her father is still being a father to Rena. Like, he's trying his best to be there for Rena.
あんまりにも可愛いから、レナ、はお持ち帰りって。
やれやれ。レナは毎日を楽しく過ごすことに関しては達人だな。
レナは毎日が楽しいよ。こんなにも素敵な友人たちに囲まれて過ごす、こんなにも素晴らしい日々があって、どうして不幸が感じられる？
だな。不幸なんかここにはないよ。いつまでも楽しくて不幸なことなんかとは一切無縁。それがHinamizawaってとこなんだからよ。
You should have stopped right there, but he just kept going.
レナが羨ましいよな。 その悩み知らずな能天気さが羨ましいぜ。
はあ。バカにされてるっぽい気がする。でも、毎日が楽しいなら、私は能天気でもいいかな。
Kana? I don't have any worries. I feel like I do, but that's just because I'm immature and still want my father's attention. Come on, say the magical words. It'll cheer you up.
はあ。
ん
It didn't make sense to say it now, but I was going to say it anyway, because this is my magical phrase that always cheers me up.
はう。お持ち帰り。
なんだよ突然。でもそれでこそレナだぜ。
That's right. This is me, Rena. I'm not Reina. Reina still wants her parents' attention. Rena is a goofy and carefree girl. She knows that every day is full of happiness, and she has the kind heart to appreciate it too. I should forget about icky things. I should live a wonderful life free of anything icky. Icky starts with I, and that's why I got rid of the I in Reina. I wonder what the Japanese explanation for that would be. Like, obviously, the character I was removed. But what would that signify in Japanese? Because in English it's Iki. I'm going to recapture the happiness I lost when I left Hinamizawa. I will overcome any pain and hardship. I can be happy, because I got rid of Iki things. I'm sure there are only incredible things waiting for me. Oh, incredible starts with I too. What a bummer. I was almost home. And when my house appeared, I noticed something different there. There was a truck parked in front of my house. There was nothing on the back of it, but I can tell it brought something here, because I saw some cardboard boxes, blankets, and ropes on the ground. From the front of the house, I heard voices of two young men saying, "Well, we'll be going now." They passed me by as I walked towards the front door. They were wearing some kind of work uniforms. They looked like delivery people. My father was about to close the door when he noticed me.
ただいま。何かあったの？
おかえり、レーナ。見てごらん、すごいぞ。
My father looked to be in a good mood. I didn't know why he was, but whenever he smiled like that, I just wanted to smile back at him. His eyes used to look like those of a dead fish no matter how hard I tried to smile at him. But these days, he could put on a big smile just to surprise me. He has been literally coming back to life since a year ago when we moved back to Hinamizawa. No, since he started dating Rina-san. When I see him smile like this, I'm happy. But at the same time, I feel confused because I don't know whether I should thank Rina-san or not.
ほら、すごいだろ。
Okay, well, what is it? He took me to the living room. He was probably expecting me to go all oh and ah or how. So whether there was something in the living room or not, I was ready to go ooh and ah and how for him.
はあ。何これ。どうしたのお父さん。
I tried to sound excited and surprised. He was standing behind me, probably smiling with satisfaction at hearing my excited voice. I, on the other hand, was desperately trying to understand what was going on. For a moment, I thought I was in someone else's house. You see, the living room had been completely redecorated. The furniture we had was all basically from the former house in Ariakey. My parents bought most of the furniture when they got married, so it was all old and a little dirty. Some of them still had crayon scribbles I drew when I was very little. But all that was gone. Everything in the living room had turned a pastel color, looking very sophisticated like the rooms you'd see in the soap operas. The new carpet looked very tropical. The new curtains matched with the carpet. The new sofa looked very expensive. The living room, in general, looked like a resort hotel. Alright. All because of Rina. I guess making it more official that she's gonna start living here more and more. The channel switcher of our old TVs was broken. And we used to have to use pliers to change channels. But it was gone too. Replaced by a new one with a big screen. The room's lights had also been replaced by nicer looking ones. The living room looked like a totally different world under the new fluorescent lights.
すごいね、お父さん。これはどうしたの？
心機一転さ。もう引っ越してきて1年にもなるんだから、お父さんもそろそろ気分を切り替えて、新しい生活に踏み出さないとなって思ったんだよ。
I suggested redecorating the house once in order to cheer him up, because he was still in pain after the divorce. But he wasn't interested at the time. He didn't want to get rid of the old furniture he had chosen with my mother, because he still couldn't get over her, even though she cruelly broke up with him. I wanted to suggest it again when the time was right. I never thought he'd do it on his own initiative.
そうだね。こんな綺麗なお部屋だと心も晴れ晴れするもんね。素敵なお部屋だと思うよ。
いいだろう。ほら、レーナ、お前、ユリースに憧れてたろ。まだ組み立ててないけど、ほら。
Ooh, a rocking chair. Imagine Rena just, like, sitting on the rocking chair, just going up and down, with like a cute thing in her hands and going how-oo, 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 as the chair rocks back and forth.
ちゃんとあるんだぞ。
はうー。お父さんすごいすごいすごい。
Okay, she did. Yeah, you know, translation and all that, but Sugoi doesn't mean thank you.
これ私がもらってもいいのかな？
こらこら、それはみんなの共用のものだから、レーナだけってわけじゃないんだぞ。
共用でもレナが占領しちゃうからダメ。
My father explained the details of his redecoration proudly. He told me that he only did the living room this time, but he's going to redecorate all the rooms. He sure had become more active. There are some parts about the redecoration I didn't like, but I still thought it was great, because it made him happy. I found the old furniture outside in the yard.
あれは捨てちゃうの？
Hey, I mean, you know, you could... Well, okay, I was gonna say, maybe move all that stuff to the dumps, so that Rena, I guess, would have more stuff to use to build up her castle. But then again, these are some furniture from the old, like, Ibaraki house. So, I don't know if Rena would feel happy about the furniture that has been thrown away that would remind her of the bad past. So, I don't know if Rena would use that kind of furniture. I don't know.
まあこの際だと思ってな。後で業者が引き取りに来てくれることになってる。
Getting rid of the old furniture means putting an end to my mother. I hated the furniture because it smelled like my mother. And I tried to break everything once. Yeah, figured. I understand why my father wants to take this opportunity to get rid of them. But for some reason, this new living room makes me feel like I no longer belonged here. My father didn't choose the new furniture. Rina-san probably did. Most likely, my father and Rina-san decided to redecorate the living room and went to a furniture store to buy everything. I tried to think positively. The reason why my father didn't tell me about the red decoration was because he wanted to surprise me. No. My father never really considers things that deeply. So, I suppose he didn't tell me because he just didn't think he needed to tell me. I'm sure he didn't redecorate the living room to make me feel like I was no longer welcome. Don't be negative, Rena. My father didn't have any bad intentions. He doesn't want to get rid of me. He doesn't think I'm the reason he can't get married. And yet, why did I feel so sad, looking at the old furniture in the yard? Why did I feel like I didn't belong? I realized the reason right away. That reason was me. To him, wanting to have a fresh start by getting rid of the things that remind him of my mother might be an indication of his unconscious desire to get rid of her daughter. Oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. Stop it! My father doesn't really consider things deeply, so he might not be thinking that I'm the reason he can't get remarried. But he understands that he can't get remade while we live together. Rena, don't make me go back and forth. You know, with how I felt about Shion, about how in some cases I was on board with her way of thinking sometimes, but other times it regressed because of Shion's, like, the way she lived. Like, by staying with him, I'm torturing my father. It was my fault that he had to get a divorce. That's why I have to support him, to help recapture his happiness. I couldn't just keep him all to myself. I have to start thinking about living on my own. I don't need to go to university. I should think about getting a job. But who would hire an uneducated girl like me? Even if somebody did hire me, I wouldn't be able to earn enough money to live on my own. Maybe I should think about working at a hostess club, like Arina-san does. People only choose the jobs they can. A girl like me doesn't have a lot of choices. Not a lot of companies would hire me or pay the amount of money that I need to live on my own. But, come to think of it, where is the place where I belong? Whenever I end up feeling like this, I miss my secret hideout and trash piles. I love to get under my blanket and feel the warmth on a cold night. The hideout gets hot and humid during the day, and very cold at night. It's not a comfortable place to spend time in, but it might be the place where I can relax the most, more than I can at my house. I guess so. So, it's not necessarily that Rena wants to offer both the father and Rina space to live by themselves and to separate herself from the father because of the way she feels, but also because she thinks that the father doesn't want her in his life, and Rena feels as if she doesn't really belong in this house with the father. So the only place that she feels the most comfortable in and is considered her own place, her sanctuary, maybe even her new home, would be the one at the trash place. No, I shouldn't think like this. I shouldn't think that my house has been invaded by Rina-san. I should thank her for making my father happy. Yeah. Rina-san isn't trying to kick me out of the house. She's trying to get along with me. But I'm not opening my heart to her. I am the bad one. I'm the bad one. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Satoshi-kun and his aunt didn't get along at all, and she abused him for a long time. Compared to him, my situation is a lot easier. Satoko-chan and Rika-chan lost their parents, and they live together now. They've been through very hard times. On the other hand, I still live with my father. I should feel blessed. I shouldn't think I'm unhappy just because of these things. I am happy. I am blessed. The trouble with me is that I still can't admit that I'm happy. My father kept talking proudly about the redecoration. I nodded at him with a big smile and let him keep at it.
そうだ、いけない。レイナ、すまないんだが、ちょっとお使いを頼めないか？
お使い？うん、いいよ。
お父さんな、ジャケットを2着ほど洋服屋さんに取り寄せさせてるんだ。それがな、今日届くらしいんだ。ちょっとお父さんは回収業者さんを手伝わなきゃならないから、レイナが代わりに取ってきてくれないか？
うん、いいよ。お店を教えて。どんなジャケットを取り寄せたんだろう。楽しみ。
No matter what they look like, I'm sure Rina-san picked them out for him. Although, I don't mind going. I'd rather go to the store than listen to his stories about the redecoration of our living room. Alright. I got a receipt, asked him where the store is, changed my clothes, and left the house. I started pedaling my bicycle, and looked at the old furniture in the yard for the last time. They used to be the object of my hatred, but for some reason, they now make me feel sentimental. Is it because I still regret the loss of my mother, even though I hate her? I couldn't let poisonous emotions take over my heart. I understood that in my mind, but I just couldn't get rid of that feeling. The old furniture wasn't the only stuff that was kicked out of the house. There was also a lot of junk that I brought home from the landfill. My father was probably going to throw that away too. Aw, man. No, Colonel! He doesn't like the junk I collect. He'll probably let the delivery company take it all together with the old furniture. Just like an animal that rubs its scent on its home in order to feel secure, I collected all the junk in order to make sure that I could stay here. No, that's not it. I wanted to bring them to my house because they were abandoned by their former owners, and they needed a place to live. Oof. Relating to pieces of junk that they don't belong like anywhere, in similar fashion to how she feels like she doesn't belong like at this house. The store where my father ordered the jackets from is a fancy boutique. It's hard to believe my father would shop at a store like this on his own. I could tell right away that Rina-san took him here. I handed over his receipt to the cashier. A short time later, the store manager came out wearing a perplexed look.
龍宮様、大変申し訳ございません。実は入荷のトラックが高速で事故渋滞に巻き込まれているようでございまして、おそらくはもうじき到着すると思うのですが。
Is that Iria's voice actor? Kind of reminds me of him. He said that the driver called a while ago, told him he just got off the highway, and would be here in about an hour. I didn't need to know all the details, but he explained them to me anyway. I asked him if I should come back tomorrow. He insisted that I should wait because the truck would be coming shortly, and he urged me to take a seat on their sofa. But I didn't really feel comfortable waiting there, so I told him I'd be back soon, and left the store. I wonder if there are any fast food restaurants nearby. I have to go all the way back to the station. I looked around and found a coffee house. The glass on the door was black, so I couldn't see inside. But there was a poster saying the price for a cup of tea is lower than normal for women on weekdays. And just be going to get a cup of tea to kill some time. It should be okay. But still, I hesitated to go inside before opening the door. Why? Do you notice Arena inside? Her first impression of the coffee house was the smell of cigarettes.